Like 4 years. Like it's been a while. But if you look like at least it was that and not like I literally saw your text and I said it out loud. I read volleyball out loud. Yeah, now like I have to go and I'm so scared. Oh, I'm so screwed.
Who usually sends something? Is that? No. No, but it's not hard.
We're just like literally anything.
No, I'm playing Kahoot on Thursday.
We were just talking about how if we don't get a study guide, then we're all.
No, you're not.
I did so.
They're not
well.
hard questions. Relax.
No, but
I promise, I'm actually not even lying at all. No, they're not stimulus-based questions. We're gonna have plenty of time to practice those. It's trust me. You're quiz. You're good.
I got such a good grade. Like I even made a Quizlet with like the word bank you made. That was such a
All right,
good
well, if you
idea.
want to make a quiz of that, whatever we make one of those games for me, I'll give you the vocab terms. I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Just a minute.
How's the deal? Good deal?
Okay.
You make the game, and if I make you the terms,
I can make a Quizlet set. Or
can you turn that into Quizlet Live or whatever, and everyone plays it?
I'm sure you can.
B, I can help you turn it into a Kahoot.
Yes.
Okay, we should
I'll
be
make the Quizlet and you make the.
All right. That's not too much
I
stuff.
went to take my quiz last night.
I know there's like 49 people in the same boat. I'm gonna adjust that. Yeah, you're good because We'll have to see an issue. Apparently, Canvas had some issue. About 15 people texted me or emailed me, and CP, I put a quiz from 2018 on there. Oops. I think we got more than 2 on our Zoom. So today's gonna be a little different, but enjoyable. This, if you guys were paying attention, this chapter was kind of just a hodgepodge of what the world's gonna look like in the future type thing, right? Already getting oh, good. That's what I wanted. All right, so a couple announcements. First off, I sent everybody a message, so you should have received this, right? If you didn't take the quiz yet and you're going to take it and you want to score for it, I'm gonna leave it as open, but I need you to take it and then send me the score or whatever you got on as a Canvas message, okay? Katie, you were taking it while I was entering the scores in on my lunch, so I need you to send me whatever score you got as a Canvas message, okay? Yeah.
I didn't process your class for that. It's a little complicated.
What's that?
It's a little complicated. I'll talk to you about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so did everyone on Zoom hear that as well? Make sure if you're taking the quiz, I sent you a message that you send me your score because I already entered in everyone else's. Okay. All right. Good. I'm gonna go ahead and take the screen share here then, and let's talk about what we got going on this week. All right. Here's the game plan. We've got a video questions on Nearpod today and an article. If we have time, we'll read it together. We have tomorrow an SAQ right and a discussion where we're going to see if we can break the room into 2 groups. And Thursday is a short class period for period 9, not period 7, 8. But we're going to review for your exam over many chapters. If I make a study guide, there's a possibility I'll make a study guide, but the test is not going to be all that hard because it's not going to be stimulus-based questions. You're welcome. I feel like we're going to get enough of those practice in the next month that we don't need it to cream you guys right now. It's not worth it. Okay. So I have a question on Zoom before I attend to the people in class. Okay. Got it. Thanks, Caitlin and Hannah. Yes. But your class period is still 56 minutes. Period 9 is 36. That makes sense? Okay, so just so I can show you what's going on, everybody in the room as well. Here is, I guess I gotta press save, right? I guess let's go through the module so you can see. All right. Quiz from yesterday in case you did not get a chance to do that yet. And then, that was about it for yesterday. And then globalization today. These are updated links for the Nearpod. So join anytime like now would be good if you're in the room or at home. If you are absent, you are listening to this recording, here is a student-paced Nearpod. And before you start the Nearpod, please click on this notes sheet, okay? And there's a little arrow next to it. Download that, open it up, and here's what we get. So I'll reshare the screen here momentarily for those of you at home. Should look like this, right? That's showing, yeah, should look like this right here. So it says from your reading last night, you didn't, well, that would have been your reading out of the chapter, the in-class article, which you're going to read tonight, and the video, which you're going to watch, globalization on crash course. Keep a set of notes determining what parts of globalization were positive, neutral, negative, or neutral. Okay. So the changes that occurred via globalization. Globalization is a very broad term, right? Can mean a lot of different things. So what was positive for humanity, what was negative, and what was a neutral. Maybe in the neutral section could be a both positive and a negative. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so make sure you have this pulled up on your screen. Okay, that's going to be kind of the theme. We're going to use that for the next 2 days, and then we're going to break it into the themes tomorrow that the College Board is looking for you to have it in, I believe. Okay, yeah. It just sometimes with having Monday out and Friday out because of tests, we got to do different things. So, all right. That being said, going to get the Nearpod set up here, and I'll launch it. And yours would have been the earlier one, so it should be this one. All right. So, the link, if you are at home, new share. Here it is if you're at home, and in the chat function, there it is, and the code is VXY9P. Unless you want to click various different links I shared with you. All right, cool. Can I get a thumbs up from the crew who's around? You good? In, Samuel? Grace, you in? Good. Guys, good. Good. Victoria? All right. All right, so we're ready to rock and roll here. So this is pretty basic. I just want to get kind of a brain sharing just to get your like brains going and thinking. Again, globalization probably means more to me than it does to you because I'm older than you. So I've really experienced a lot of changes in terms of like technology and just the way the world works. But you're old enough to understand this, and I'm sure you've talked about it in a lot of your other classes. So I would call this a cross-curricular question, meaning it's applicable to other subjects you have, okay? So think about your life and your own culture. How does globalization affect you? List as many ways as you can think of. Let's be honest. It's definitely changed a lot since the pandemic hit as well about 13 months ago, right? So I'm just curious, what do you guys think? Okay, 13 months of this whole deal, plus on top of that, you lived before that and you're younger than me. You probably have had it's probably affected you in different ways than it has me. So put your answer in, put it as much as you can think of, and then be ready to discuss it, to actually share, an opinion. All right, go. All right, we got about 20 seconds left here. Make sure you at least press upload, please. I can. You want me to? There you go. All right. So it affects the products that are receiving by. Learn about different cultures. Affects my clothing, food, how technology works, pollution. A lot of good answers. All right, somebody. I'll tell you what. Pair up. Okay. Boom, boom. You two pair up. Stanley and Destiny. You guys do a little three-way action back there. Lucy and Kaylee. You pair up. Hannah and Grace. Right here. We got two. We got two all the way down, except we got a threesome in the back. And Tori and Jill. Go ahead and share your answer together, please. Okay. Do that now. All right. Those of you on Zoom, you're on just my speaker right now. So tell me, how has globalization affected your life? Go ahead, Katya.
A lot of products are a lot cheaper because US companies source labor in other places.
Sorry, outsourcing labor a lot cheaper. Good. Give me another example. Lily, do you want to talk?
Sure. So a lot of the media we consume are from like other countries. So like China is this, and they make sometimes they make movies, and then also Japan. They they have anime.
Good job. Liliana, what do you think?
I said like phones and communication around the world because
Good.
it's especially increased with the pandemic.
Exactly. Vivian, do you have one?
I thought about like the articles being released and like seeing what else is going on in the world. Like I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. Kat, do you have anything? Caitlin Edwards, do you have anything? You out there taking the day off? Nyla. Nyla, you got anything? You missing the use of technology improving too. Good. Kat, are you out there? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and bring it back here then. So, Ethan, your group of three, give us something that has affected your life. So you say you've learned aspects of other people's cultures because of globalization. Okay. What about the three group back here? Loud, please. Okay, so the answer was made the World Wide Web, the internet, and pollution, just the awareness behind it. Good. Any other groups have one that they want to share? Yeah, Grace.
Hannah and I talked about how through globalization, companies all over the world have used like issues and topics and like politicized them and used like issues that had nothing to do with politics and like capitalized off of them.
Okay, so how the politicalization of current events, even outside the United States, yeah, has changed how we look at politics and even voting. Yeah. Hannah.
And how like the communication that comes from both sides. That's like wants so many people to like chime in on things, like give even more and more opinions on it, and that can make it chaotic.
Okay. Jill.
Victoria, we're talking about how like agriculture has gotten better and better, and we're able to access like food from all around the world. That's not just grown in America. And also, I was talking about the content we consume. Like, for instance, if you watch like anime or read manga that's like from Japan, and previously we wouldn't have had any access.
What is it called? Anime? I hear that's pretty popular right now, huh? Huh. All right. So I definitely agree. My life has changed dramatically. When I want beard balm or hair product or I don't even know, I mean deodorant, I go on Amazon and I buy it and it shows up at my house. And I pollute the earth by having them drive their cars around and giving me cardboard boxes that I burn in my backyard to release more carbon emissions into the environment. I mean, all of that is me changing the environment. And I'm getting these products from China, but somehow they're coming within a day. It shows you how interconnected the world is. Also, the pandemic has drastically affected how I communicate with family members. All my, even my elder parents and aunts and uncles all text now, which is definitely something that they didn't do before. A lot of them got new phones, so they contributed to the monopoly of Apple, et cetera, right? Things changed quite a bit. All right, so technology, good or bad? You're filling out positive, negative, and neutral as we watch this video, and you got some questions to answer as we watch it, all right? So those of you at home, I'm going to attempt to play this over the speaker. I know a couple of you are going to tell me right away before it even starts that you can't hear it well. This is also on YouTube, and if you would rather watch it on YouTube, I won't count you off for not answering the questions. But if you sit there and don't do anything, that's on you. Okay? Fair enough. Fair enough. You can take 4 down, not 3. All right, everyone good? Nope.
This is the final episode of Crash Course World History, not because we've reached the end of history, but because we've reached the particular middle where I happen to be living. Today, we'll be considering whether globalization is a good thing. And along the way, we'll try to do something that you may not be used to doing in history classes, imagining the future. Mr. Green, in the future, I'm going to get to second base with Molly Brown. No, you won't be from the past. But the fact that when asked to imagine the future, you imagine your future says a lot about the contemporary world. And listen, me from the past, well, there's no question that your solipsistic individualism is bad both for you and for our species. The broader implications of individualism in general are a lot more complex.
All right. Do you think individualism is good or bad, and why? What is individualism? Can anybody help me answer so that people have an idea what it is? The ability for you to make decisions that could affect yourself, but also the whole world at the same time. So you don't have somebody else doing the thinking for you. All right, so I'm gonna start putting a time limit on these so that we don't waste the whole class period doing this. All right. I think it depends on the situation. While humans are driven by desire for money, acceptance, and happiness, I think it's important to do what is best for you. But there's a difference between doing that and just being greedy, especially when other lives are affected and could possibly be harmed. Isn't that the double-edged sword, right? You guys all, does everybody see this? That we make a decision. I don't want to drive to Walmart, or I don't want to have to go out and get some leaves and rub them underneath my armpits to use as deodorant. So I like to buy it from Amazon. I don't even know how to make beard balm, but it makes my face feel better in the morning. You know, it smells nice underneath my mask. But again, is it selfish? Nah, that's what we're kind of looking at. So I hope you're starting to kind of see this is where we're going, and this is more of a conceptual chapter anyway. So I've got to figure out how to go forward. I think I just pressed this. The no answer, folks. Remember, I see this at home, so make sure you are answering. I see this once the class is over.
Flex. Man, I'm gonna miss you, intro. So last week, ta-da, we discussed how global economic interdependence has led, on average, to longer, healthier, more prosperous lives for humans, not to mention an astonishing change in the overall human population. In the West, globalization has also led to the rise of a service economy. In the US and Europe, most people now work not in agriculture or manufacturing, but in some kind of service sector. Healthcare, retail, education, entertainment, information technology, internet videos about world history, etc. And that switch has really changed our psychology, especially the psychology of upper classes living in the industrialized world. I mean, to quote Frederick Jameson, we are so far removed from the realities of production and work that we inhabit a dream world of artificial stimuli and televised experience. Think of it this way: if you had to kill a chicken every time you visited KFC, you would probably eat fewer chickens.
Which example illustrates how removal from the realities of production might change our choices? So, from the realities of production, read the answer choices, see what you think. Okay, so overwhelmingly here, it seems to be that most people think that they would not buy a leather jacket if they actually had to skin the cow. Luella, why do you think that is? I'm sorry, you gotta go a little louder for me. The skill beyond the disgusting part of it, or just maybe like, I can't, let me try to be less biased because I'm not good at skinning things, period. So beyond the maybe dirtiness of the job, or unsanitary idea behind it, it's a skill that you don't really have, is it? Exactly. So, but we still enjoy it, don't we? Yeah.
Another change in psychology, many historians of the now note that globalization has also led to a celebration of individualism, particularly in the wake of the failures of the Marxist collectivist utopias. The generation that lived through the Depression and World War II saw large-scale collectivist responses to both those crises. And they were responses that limited freedom, like the military draft, for instance, which limited your freedom, not to be a soldier, or the collectivization of health insurance seen in most of the post-war West, which limited your freedom to go bankrupt from healthcare costs, or also government programs like Social Security, which limit your freedom not to pay for old people's retirement. But since the 1960s, the ascendant idea of personal freedom minimally limited by government intervention has become very powerful. Even the Catholic Church was part of this new search for individual freedom, as the Second Vatican Council relaxed church rules in ways that weakened central authority, made concessions to individual styles of worship, even said that people of different religions could go to heaven. What good is heaven if it's going to be full of Protestants? It's just going to be like Minnesota.
Pick one event in the 20th century and explain how it led to an increase in individualism. I'm not going to give it away. I have one that just the first thing that popped into my head. Again, you can use 21st century if you want to as well. Let's try to do this in a 1 minute, 60 seconds. The right for women to vote. The fall of the Berlin Wall. Stonewall, LGBTQ plus people of color rioting against the horrible abuse they've been suffering for so long. Catholics changing their rules. We're pretty good. Let's take about 10 seconds here. Women being able to vote, gay marriage rights, no longer having war drafts. People are free to choose what they do after high school. Civil rights movements for people of color being able to vote and full receive American citizen rights without being limited by segregation laws. Wonderful. So many good answers here. Good. Good. So a lot of people, Gay Pride Month, the representation starting. Excellent job.
Soda. So here in the last episode of Crash Course World History, in the last 30 seconds, I've offended 5/6 of the world's population in the form of non-Catholics and all Republicans and probably some political moderates who are confused about what Obama's healthcare law was. Man, maybe I should just make this episode just an extended rant where I reveal all of my political biases and also my personal biases. Look, you're never going to meet a historian who doesn't have biases, but good historians try to acknowledge their biases. And I am biased toward Canada and its awesome healthcare system. I can't lie, I'm very jealous of you guys. So perhaps the greatest effect of the victory of individualism was on sex and the family. We haven't talked much about sex because my brother's teaching biology, which is basically just sex. But sex is pretty important historically because it's how we keep happening. But in the 20th century, greater variety and availability of contraception made it possible for people to experiment with multiple sexual partners and help to uncouple sex from childbearing, which was awesome. But individualism also had a destabilizing effect on families. As the great Leo Tolstoy put it, all happy families are alike, but each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. But when your individual fulfillment trumps all, you needn't live amid your uniquely unhappy family. You can just leave. So divorce rates have skyrocketed in the past 2 decades, and not just in the US. By the turn of the 21st century, divorce rates in China reached nearly 25%, with 70% of those divorces initiated by women. Technology has also driven families apart as parents and children spend increasing time alone in front of their individual screens, sharing fewer experiences. That's individualism too, but not of the kind that we usually celebrate. But probably the biggest consequence of globalization and the ensuing rise in human populations has been humanity's effect on the environment. While populations have increased partly thanks to better yields from existing farmland, much more land has also been brought under cultivation in the past half century. Often this meant cutting down trees and valuable rainforests. The best known example of this is what's going on in the Amazon, but it happens worldwide. And we're losing land not just for food, but also to grow the global economy.
All right, what is the primary reason why the Amazon rainforest is being cut down? What do you think? Interesting. All right, so when I share the solution, why is it to allow for more land to grow food? Hannah. So the answer was to feed the population. What were you gonna say, Kaylee? Good. Lucy and then Brooke. Good. So the reliance on cash crops as well as a growing population. Yep. So areas, because soil's going bad in so many industrialized countries, they have to find new places to grow things. Correct. Good.
Common. Oh, it's time for the open letter? An open letter to flowers. But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Oh, it's fake flowers. Thank you, Stan. One for behind each ear. Dear flowers, you capture the best and the worst of the globalized economy. You're so pretty, even the fake ones are pretty, but the real ones are constantly dying. They've got to be harvested and shipped and cut very efficiently, and it's a global phenomenon. Like there are flowers in my corner market from Africa. These are from China, but because they are plastic, they could just be shipped in a shipping container. More people can afford to apologize by giving their romantic partners professionally cut and arranged roses than in any time in human history. But in that, we have lost something, which is that the whole idea of flowers is that you had to go out into the field and like cut them and arrange them yourself to apologize. It's not supposed to be, I'm sorry I forgot your birthday. Here's $8 worth of work that was done in Kenya. It's supposed to be, I'm sorry I forgot your birthday, so I went into the fracking forest and got you some fracking flowers. Anyway, flowers, best wishes, John Green. Aw, you guys got me flowers in my last episode of World History. Okay, let's go to the thought bubble. As worldwide production and consumption increases, we use more resources, especially water and fossil fuels. Globalization has made the average human richer, and rich people tend to use more of everything, but especially energy. This has already resulted in climate change, which will likely accelerate.
So why is the global consumption of water and fossil fuels likely to increase? It just goes back to what I was just talking about. Oh. Because of a steadily increasing population, more people, more need. What might be a reason beyond just population growth, though? This was in the reading too. There you go. People just keep getting richer and more amenities, make it easier to be selfish and to use more energy, right? For example, do you remember after 2008, what year were y'all born? Around there? So you weren't around, you were young, but before that, it was a standard to have SUVs. You know, a lot of my friends in high school had SUVs, etc., or people I knew had them. I didn't. But then after 2008, people started buying smaller, cheaper cars. Hyundai, Kia became much more popular, etc. And then now all of a sudden, we're back to 2021, and what are people buying? Trucks and Tahoes, you know, SUVs again. And a lot of that largely goes with the economy. And obviously, even though they try to make better engines, they still end up polluting the earth more, burning more fossil fuel.
Accelerate. The global economy isn't a zero-sum game. Like, I don't need to become more poor in order for someone else to become more rich. But growth, at least so far, has been dependent on unsustainable use of the planet's resources. The planet can't sustain 7 billion automobiles, for instance, or 7 billion frequent fires, although most of us who can afford to drive or fly feel entitled to do so. You'll remember that when we talked about the Industrial Revolution, we discussed the virtuous cycle of more efficiency making things cheaper, which in turn made them easier to buy, which increased demand, which increased efficiency. But from the perspective of the planet, each turn in that cycle takes something. more land under cultivation, more carbon emissions, more resource extraction. That can't go on forever, but worryingly, our current models of economic growth don't allow for any other way. Thanks, Bob. And then there is our astonishingly robust health. Although much of the world has been ravaged by HIV/AIDS for the past 3 decades, there's been a relative lack of global pandemics since the 1918 flu. And that's particularly surprising given increased population density and more travel between population centers. China has seen 150 million people leave the countryside for cities in the last 20 years. This was Shanghai in 1990, and this is Shanghai in 2010. The population of Lagos was 41,000 in 1900. Today, it's almost 8 million. Of course, people have been moving from country to city for a long time. Remember Gilgamesh? But the pace of that change has dramatically accelerated. Similarly, there's nothing new about international trade, but its pace has also increased dramatically. In 1960, trade accounted for 24% of the world's GDP. Today, it's more than double that. Almost no human being alive today lives with stuff only manufactured in their home country. But 1,000 years ago, only the richest of the rich could benefit from the silk.
All right. Which of the following is not a reason why global pandemics are more likely because of globalization? Yeah. Which of the following is not a reason why global pandemics are more likely? So you understand that this is a trick question, right? So it's saying it's saying find 3 reasons on here why global pandemics are more likely to happen. I think we all felt this happen, didn't we? So the fact that more people have access to basic health care is not going to stop a pandemic. Okay. The fact that look at what happened in New York City. Okay. Last April and May, look what happened. You know, even our entire global economy still isn't even close to being caught up to where it was prior to the pandemic. You, in my industry that I work in outside of school, you can't even get tennis balls or tennis shoes right now. They're stuck in a harbor in Los Angeles because harbor workers are on strike. I mean, and it's just wild.
Silk Road. Still, trade isn't new, and while it's tempting to say that the types of goods being traded, pharmaceuticals, computers, software, financial services, represent something wholly new, you could just as easily see this as part of the evolution of trade itself. At some point, silk was seen as a new trade good. As tastes change and consumers become more affluent, the things they want to buy change. So is anything really different, or is it all just accelerated? Well, some historians argue that an economically interdependent world is much less likely to go to war. And that may be true, but increasing global cultural and economic integration hasn't led to an end to violence. I mean, we've seen large-scale ethnic and nationalistic violence from Rwanda to former Yugoslavia to the Democratic Republic of Congo to Afghanistan. Globalization has not rid the world of violence. But there is an ideological shift in the age of globalization that does seem pretty new, and that's the turn to democracy. Now, this isn't the limited democracy of the ancient Greeks or the quirky republican system originally developed in the US. There are almost as many kinds of democracies as there are nations experiencing democracy. The fact is, however, that democracy and political freedom, especially the freedom to participate in and influence the government, have been on the rise all over the world since the 1980s, and especially since 1990. For instance, if you looked at the governments of most Latin American countries during most of the 20th centuries, you would usually find them ruled by military strongmen. Now, with a couple of exceptions, Fidel, Hugo, standing behind me right now, because if they're behind me, I am in favor of collectivizing oil revenue and distributing it to the poor. If they're not behind me, that's a terrible idea. Right, but anyway, democracy is now flourishing in most of Latin America. Probably the most famous democratic success story is South Africa, which jettisoned decades of apartheid in the 1990s and elected former dissident Nelson Mandela as its first Black president in 1994. It also adopted one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, but it's worth remembering that democracy and economic success don't always go hand in hand as much as some Americans wish they would. Many new African democracies continue to struggle. The same is true in some Latin American countries, and China has shown that you don't need democracy in order to experience.
All right, what is one current event you could point to that would support the idea that you don't need democracy to experience economic growth? I think there's multiple answers that would work here. Let's take 1 minute. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off in 1 minute. Make sure you get your answer in. There's no, I'm not grading you on this. Just take a guess if you have no idea. Grace, what are you reading? I get that, but I'd love for you to be with us. Quasi. You open your book open and you're annotating it.
I'm so behind on everything right now. I have to multitask in every class. Because I couldn't get on campus yesterday.
All right, so China, I was the one I was thinking. I also stock market plummet recently. Stock market is way up, over 33,000 right now. China. I was wondering if someone else would say another one though. Yeah, the USSR does not exist. It's Russia, but that's what I was thinking as well. I mean, they have a fake democracy. All right, we're gonna move on. So you should have gotten an answer in. If you want credit, but obviously China in the last 25 years in their mixed economy is definitely taken off.
Economic growth. But for a few countries, especially Brazil and India, the combination of democracy and economic liberalism has unleashed impressive growth that has lifted millions out of poverty. So can we say that it's good then? Can we celebrate globalization?
So if you're taking notes where you should be, you would have just put down for India and Brazil. Was it good for their economy? Hello? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was very good for their economy. Lifted millions of people out of poverty. Your book mentioned that multiple times too.
In spite of its destabilizing effects on families and the environment? Well, here's where we have to imagine the future. Because if some superbug shows up tomorrow and it travels through all these global trade routes and kills every living human, then globalization will have been very bad for human history.
Whoa!
By ending it. If climate change continues to accelerate and displaces billions of people and causes widespread famines and flooding, then we will remember this period of human history as short-sighted, self-indulgent, and tremendously destructive. On the other hand, if we discover an asteroid hurtling toward Earth and mobilize global industry and technology in such a way that we lose Bruce Willis but save the world, then globalization will be celebrated for millennia. I mean, assuming we have millennia and can convince Bruce Willis to go. In short, to understand the present, we have to imagine the future. That's the thing about history. It depends on where you're standing. From where I'm standing, globalization has been a net positive. But then again, it's been a pretty good run for heterosexual males of European descent. Critics of globalization point out that billions haven't benefited much, if at all, from all this economic prosperity, and that the polarization of wealth is growing both within and across nations. And those criticisms are valid and they are troubling. But they aren't new. Disparities between those who have more and those who have less have existed pretty much from the moment agriculture enabled us to accumulate a surplus. And sometimes this inequality has been a big concern, as it was with Jesus and with Muhammad. At other times, not so much. Inequalities are as old as human history, and almost as old is the debate of.
All right. So here's what we're going to kind of end off with. Based on what you've learned, do you believe globalization is net positive or net negative force in the world? You could say neutral, but give your reason here. Okay. At least try to provide 2 to 3 responses. So I'm going to go ahead and put a timer on. Let's just try to cut this at 2 minutes just so that we can get to this next part. All right, so we have net positive. Globalization comes advancement, innovation, increased global communication, and freedom of thought. It's pretty good. So many more negatives like pandemics, deforestation, and global warming. Negative because it prevents the originality of cultures continuing and allows viruses like COVID to travel quickly. Environmental factors, limits on freedom. Positive because it allowed foreign products to be shipped and used by places around the world. Has also increased the economies from nations that rely on manufactured goods and trades. Net positive because it allowed many people to get out of poverty and made many advancements in technology along with the rise in travel and communication. Pretty interesting. We got about 10 seconds left here to get an answer in here. And I'd say between positive, negative, and neutral, we're probably, I don't know, I'd say closer to 50-50 or 33. All right. We're at 2 minutes. So let's take a stop here. We got everybody except for one person who's chilling the rest of the day. And here's what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this and take me back to this module. Lily Joel, can you see the module on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. So based upon our globalization notes right here, okay, I guess I can pull those up again, okay. Those of you who argued it was positive, give me some examples that you would have write in here. You're going to write in here right now. Go ahead. Rushi, give me one. The rise of a service economy. Okay, good. What else? Yeah, Owen. Okay, more ways to carry out necessary tasks. Stanley. More jobs. Katie. Easier to spread ideas. The internet, right? Hannah. So the ability to be more mindful of others' cultures other than your own, access to them. You don't think 30 years ago there were the amount of Thai or sushi places around, do you? No way. Or ramen or pho, whatever. Pho. Sorry, I'm sure I said it real. What else? Positive, Stanley. Individualism, yeah. The idea that you have a lot of freedoms that people didn't have for the majority of the history of the world, right? Good. Anyone want to point out anything else? Anybody on Zoom? Lucy. Spread of different foods, again, similar to even the Columbian Exchange, but the continuation of that, allowing for more people to survive, right? Yes. Yeah, consumer goods available in different areas of the world that used to not be. Yes. Can you say that a little louder? All right, longer lives, healthier lives, and more prosperous or more wealth collection. Stanley. Cheaper products. Okay, this list could go on and on and on and on and on. All right, what are some negative effects? Ashton. Pollution, environmental degradation. Katie. Okay, so basically eliminating certain cultures based on a demand for technology. Brooke. So individualism effect on the family structure. Grace.
I think overall welfare, like, healthcare is a problem.
What do you mean?
Like, the happiness.
Okay.
Because welfare means like the,
You mean the general welfare of humanity
yeah,
is worse?
I would say so.
Okay. Who else said? I think, did I get to you yet, Brooke? Okay, Lucy, you have been patient. We got.
The more you touch something,
Yeah, the ability for viruses and bacteria to be spread, obviously. Samuel.
Dependent on a lot of.
Yeah, we're using up resources pretty quickly. Hannah.
Like toxic nationalism, because like how the world
Toxic nationalism is interesting. Yeah. Katie.
using the Earth's resources
Using the Earth's resources to
at an unsustainable
at unsustainable rate. Good. Okay, neutral, I think, is a little bit more what I would call wild card, your choice, right? What you think. So, that was kind of a opportunity for you to take some notes on your own. So for homework tonight, where it says 413 pros and cons of globalization. I'm just gonna show you on the screen what it looks like. So it says read the following article. It's like 2.5 pages. It's a really easy read. It basically gives you some pros and some cons. I want you to add those to your notes, okay? And then I want you to be ready to take a stance tomorrow. Was globalization a net positive or net negative for the world? Respond as a text entry. Be ready to defend your position in class on Wednesday. So here's the deal. When you respond, or whatever side you take, I mean, you're probably going to be put into a group and have to try to defend that and talk through it, why you came up with your idea. So have a conviction, okay? Also, make sure you post this as a text box or a text entry and not a, don't try to put, it won't accept Google Docs or Word Docs, okay? Does everyone understand that? I don't want you spending an hour and a half on this. This should be a 20, 30-minute thing and done, if that. Tomorrow, I do have on here, you'll see this under the modules, I have some themes. If you want to get ahead a little bit, let's say you want to put a little extra time in, these are the themes that College Board said they wanted us to take away from this kind of chapter and discussion. And so you can start to kind of organize your notes and our discussion into these categories. Okay. That's where we're going to be moving. I got a question on here. Neutral will not be an option. Take one or the other, Vivian Taylor. Just want you to pick. All right, I got to get over and clean desks. Those of you on Zoom, have a fantastic day. Thanks for your participation. Bye-bye.